Hi, this is Jeremy Snyder and Eric Grill with another episode of Chain Bites 360. And today we have Jesse, or Justifer, from Amboss, and he's going to be speaking with us about Amboss and Magma. Really awesome to have you on our show today.
Likewise. Yeah, thanks for having me on. Super excited to talk about Amboss and Magma.
Well, we're excited to speak with you. In one of our past episodes, we kind of talked through or just made a generalized call out to developers, to people with companies that are doing interesting things, with Bitcoin. So you definitely fit that bill. You want to start off and just kind of tell us a little bit about Amboss?
Sure. So we got started. This was kind of like a pandemic project. I think we were messing around with Raspberry Pi Lightning nodes, and I got into contact with the developer behind ThunderHub, which is an open source node manager that is based in L&D. And I was, we got to talking because I was just giving him some ideas about things that he could add to ThunderHub. And then he saw me helping out some users in the ThunderHub Telegram chat, and then reached out to me to team up and see if we could build a company out of this. So after we got the company set up and then started figuring out what it is we want to build, what does the Lightning Network need to grow, and so. We started building a node manager, multiple node manager, and then realized, oh man, there's no market for this. But all along, we were kind of frustrated with the options for just finding out information about the Lightning Network. So we built a Lightning Network Explorer, which is amboss.space, and saw some initial traction. And I think both of us soon after quit our jobs just to say okay, we're gonna build this, and got some did an initial tiny fundraise just to put a team together, and now we're a team of 4, and earlier this year we released Magma, so that kind of expands so initially we have the Explorer to find out information about nodes to make them both personal and marketable. And then kind of layering on Magma, which is a marketplace on top of it. So kind of initially introducing people with the Explorer and then getting them to connect with each other with Magma.
That's really cool. How'd you guys come up with the name?
Let's see. So I think this is one of my strengths is just word association. Back in the day, I won a pun competition. And so we just made a whole document of all the possible names that were related to lightning and the physics of it, the Thor and hammer imagery, all of that we were investigating. And we the co-founder of Amboss, AP is what he goes by, he's in Germany, and so we settled on Amboss, which is the German name for anvil, a blacksmith tool.
Nice.
So it's just a nice, robust platform to do work on Lightning.
That's really cool.
Nice. Next time we need a name, Jeremy, we'll have to get these guys. Jeremy and I go back and forth with names, and we can't figure anything. I don't know. We're terrible.
We're idea guys, not namers.
Yeah.
Although, little known fact, so BTM Compliance, our logo, also happens to be the same logo that's on the side of Thor's hammer.
No kidding. Okay.
Yep.
That's awesome.
We didn't know that when we did it. Jeremy was watching Marvel one night and said, hey, that's our logo. And I'm like, what? Yeah, okay.
No kidding. Yeah, well, shoot, you guys are going to have to integrate Lightning ASAP.
So now...
We have, actually.
We just hope that nobody from Marvel is listening and wants to come back and be like, remove your logo, because our logo's too awesome.
Awesome.
So what got you interested in Lightning? I assume you were interested in Bitcoin development, and then what got you interested in Lightning, and how long ago was that?
Yeah, so I got into Bitcoin like in 2017, and one of my first purchases was trying to buy Christmas gifts for my family using Bitcoin in late 2017, and I was a bit late to do my Christmas shopping, and I got hit with some incredible mempool fees. Like the mempool just filled up, and I think I spent like $50 to do one transaction to like make a purchase, like a bread knife, and and like the knife was like just as expensive as the transaction fee, and then it didn't arrive in time. So I had to get refunded the amount and then send a subsequent transaction because the Bitcoin didn't arrive in time.
The price changed.
So,
so you didn't even send enough fee. So the fee that you sent wasn't even enough, so it rejected it, and then you had to wait the 2 days to actually get that Bitcoin back because
exactly. So I had some initial frustrations with like, okay, Bitcoin definitely has a scaling problem because paying this amount of fees just to do a small dollar transaction,
and it's not even getting there. That's the worst part. It's not even
didn't
delivered.
work. So it was definitely on my mind. And Andreas Antonopoulos got me super bullish on Bitcoin and the technology, and he made a couple of mentions of the Lightning Network, and I just dove in. So I think my first channel was to Pollo feeding chickens. Over the Lightning Network, I just seeing the instant feedback that having like a near instant transaction can give you, that like anywhere in the world, like I can have a real world impact with a small payment and for essentially no fee. It got me super bullish on Lightning, and yeah, so I was just playing with it because I just thought it was cool. And then after that, it was like, oh, this is a social network, and I'm like, already, a bit of a networker myself. Like, just let me loose at a conference and I'll talk to everyone, do my social butterfly thing. But I realized Lightning Network works the exact same way. Like, initially it was like a bunch of like developers, and like they're not like super skilled networkers. I mean, like just thinking about stereotypes.
What are you trying to say?
But I think for the most part, they're not the most social people. Whereas like, me letting loose on the Lightning Network, it was just really fun for me as kind of an extrovert.
I think actually you just nailed something that makes Lightning different. Not only is the technology different, but the community is different. There are a lot of people that aren't technology people necessarily that got involved in Lightning and saw like you did, the potential. Like, okay, Bitcoin's a little problematic and as a first layer. There's going to be second layers. So what is that going to entail? What is that going to mean? And I have all these ideas. Lightning just works. It's a pretty relatively simple network itself, the way that it works. And that's, I think, the beauty of it is that it is simple. And there's very few points of failure that can be compromised or anything else, and it's working on the same mechanism. It's protected by Bitcoin and all of those things. So that's interesting that you got into it from that. And Andreas Antonopoulos, of course, he's the one that, like, when I heard him talk about Bitcoin, that's got me started in Bitcoin in 2012. So.
Yeah, and if you're an innovation lover, which I think Andreas Antonopoulos like really taps into, it like really attracts the technologists and the innovators. Just seeing the fact that it's really hard to like make a change to Bitcoin itself, which is a feature, not a bug.
We've given up on that. Forget it.
But, like change the code.
So layer 1 wars are over. Let's just focus on layer 2 now. Like that's, I don't know, that segue. Ooh, yeah, okay, a couple more changes. We'll be lucky if we get another change in the next decade.
Exactly.
Right? So.
But then you get onto Lightning, and there's like no consensus required. I mean, it's like why are you even talking to me about this? Like, just go build it. Like you don't need me to like give you any approvals. Like just build it, which is like the really exciting part. And I think Bitcoin has kind of missed out on that, whereas like ETH is like changing all the time, and it's like too difficult to keep track of. But like on Bitcoin, the innovation layer in my mind is Lightning, like where the really cutting edge stuff happens.
Agreed. Liquid as well. Anything second layer. So we tried to do some development in Lightning, and it definitely has some. It's designed for payments. It's not designed as like a state server. because what we were doing was like a supply chain, and we wanted to use like a side chain or Lightning, something to that nature to store information. But Lightning doesn't work like that, right? It just throws all this stuff out. You have no idea where it went. And that's by design. It's designed to do that. So it's like, oh, that's not going to work. So we can use it as a payment channel. But what are we going to use to actually track this stuff? And Bitcoin's way too expensive to be putting everything onto the Bitcoin blockchain. We ended up using Ethereum as a way to track it, and then using Lightning for actual payments in El Salvador.
No kidding.
Yeah, but that's the struggle. And so we even talked to a lot of the Lightning developers, like, how do we solve it? They're like, we're not going to solve this. This is by design. We don't want to put that in there. And I was like, okay, well then we can't use it for those things, and we can't use Bitcoin. And that's one of the things is a little challenging and a little frustrating is the development for Bitcoin. All the money and all the innovation, all that stuff goes into building on top of Ethereum or some other layer even on top of Ethereum versus Bitcoin. And so you don't even see that much second layer stuff in Bitcoin itself because there's no money to be made, right? You actually have to build a product that is successful, which is why I like Lightning. There was no IPO, there was no money, there's no money going around it. The only way you make money is if the damn thing works. And if it works, everybody's making money and everyone's happy, but you're not gonna make a ton of money either. So I love the incentive system that Lightning actually has in place that lets you innovate and just use it as what it is, rather than, oh, we got to make $5 million off of our IPO before, and then the product doesn't get built. And none of that is happening on Bitcoin. It's the most frustrating thing ever is that none of the stuff is being built on Bitcoin. All the second layer stuff, Ethereum or Solana or Cardano or whatever, not Bitcoin. Nobody's even talking about it. Like, so you have all these Bitcoin maxis. Like, I'm not going to get into this because I know I'm going to get blasted again, but okay, great, but put your money where your mouth is and get these companies started that are innovating on there, and a lot of them have, but where are they? Like, holy crap, we've been doing this thing for a while now. We're just now getting around to funding these companies to build on top of Bitcoin? What are we, crazy?
It's pretty wild because, like, I was kind of just remarking last night that the Bitcoin builders are actually, like, pretty quiet. Like, especially at this stage, like it.
You mean the core developers?
Yeah, like, I mean, or the people building businesses on top of Bitcoin. The service.
Who?
Yeah, it's like
because they're on and off ramps. I mean, that's 99% of the businesses on Bitcoin are going to be like us: Bitcoin ATM machines, gift cards, exchanges, ways of making money on the on and off ramps. Which, hey, there's a lot of money to be made there, and it's necessary for us to do that. But if we're going to talk about what Bitcoin's going to disrupt in the future, we better be talking about these other layers and these other things, or somebody's going to eat our lunch, and they already have. Like, I think, as far as smart contracting, Bitcoin's missed the mark. We're not going to reclaim it.
Right.
It's going to be somebody else.
Yeah, like what I'm kind of watching is like Zebedee doing gaming, just Thunder Games, the value for value stuff, people disrupting paywalls, Ellen Bits. Just like adding incredible functionality to Lightning. And then, what was the last one? Yeah, I think Ellen Bits is pretty much like one of the most important projects, I think, just with the rapid innovation, with the Bolt card integration. They've got some ATM functionality on there. That's some wild innovation, but you like don't hear about it that much. Whereas it's like kind of from the crypto world, like a lot of these tokens have like marketing budgets, so they could like be.
That's all they have.
Right.
But that's the problem, and I've been screaming about it for a while. It's like, okay, all these people are all these shitcoins and dismissing them as shitcoins, but the reality is the money's there, and so if you don't find a mechanism to fund these projects to get this stuff built on Bitcoin, it's going to be built somewhere where it's easier to get the money, it's easier to build it, it's easier to do whatever you want. You're never going to get the core developers to change anything, so forget that. So now we're talking about second layer. Wait, we can't make any money, so we're going to do all this development and not make any money? Nah, let's just go build our own coin, or let's fork this, and we'll make millions, and then we can do it our way.
Yeah.
And that's what we've done others have done over and over and over again. And that's why you're wondering, we're 13 years later, hey, where's the Bitcoin projects?
Right.
Besides Lightning, right? Lightning is one of the success Bitcoin projects, but what else, right? Now we're just like, okay, now build on Lightning. Okay, great.
Yeah.
But there should be other things that Lightning
Before
can't do.
we started recording, we were talking a bit about Umbrel and kind of all the app ecosystem that they have going on there. Do you think there's any like potential for decentralized file storage or types of things?
Oh,
like that?
definitely. And I think that's already built into there. They have one in there now. There are a couple of them actually. What was it? I can't know. I have to go and look at it, but they do absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, I've been super bullish on kind of like the whole app ecosystem that's being built out around Lightning, just because it makes commerce very easy, and you could install an app like on your little personal computer, your node. Yeah, it just kind of unlocks additional functionality and maybe even additional business lines for you to operate from your home node. I mean, ideally, like this is like not only a bank, but it's also like this whole it's part of a decentralized ecosystem that is truly decentralized around the world. So
Well, that's okay for tinkerers, but the reality is you have to make it easy for the normal everyday person to use it, and they're not going to be setting up a Raspberry Pi and setting up a Tor network, and they're not going to they're not going to do that stuff. Umbro makes it very very easy. I got to say that is almost plug and play. But you still got to buy a Pi. You still got to buy a memory card. You still got to buy a power supply. You still have to do, and you still have to hook it up to your network, and you still have to do all of these things. That's you lost 95% of the market right there, right? So these things need to be made way easier to. And I've seen people actually selling the Pies you just plug it in, and I think Umbrel actually sells them directly. So I think that's pretty cool. But then you have to use it. Then you have to figure out how to use this monstrosity, and that's not always easy for a normal user either. And so I don't think we've done a great job as a community making it easy for people.
It's a
So,
great point because just looking at kind of the user friendliness of the whole ecosystem, like it actually has made some incredible strides because like I remember like my
I remember opening a channel and hoping and praying that it was gonna and then it would just get closed, and I was all right, that didn't work, or I don't even know what happened, and just weird stuff would happen. And Umbrel really does make it easy, right? You just click on it and it happens, and I assume it's going to work at this point. And don't
now
think
like
about it. So
me orange pilling people, like my go-to wallet used to be Electrum, like where I would recommend that to people. And so you're gonna have this like 90s-esque interface that you're gonna use on your phone, and like they're gonna receive a transaction. It's like there's weird codes everywhere. They have to decide, okay, am I gonna do legacy or SegWit? Which is just like, this is a
What is that?
horrendous
What do you
user
say?
experience.
What is that?
Yeah, you're gonna like. There's so many like rabbit holes. Okay, you sent me a transaction. Why does it say unconfirmed? It's like, oh my god. There's
No, I use Electrum. I would never suggest a new user using Electrum. We send them the Blue Wallet, which is fantastic because it solves that problem of being able to receive money on Lightning without having to create your channels. They do it everything. They make it easy. And in fact, forget about that. Just on the Bitcoin side, they make it easy as well. You can have that wallet up and running within the quickest wallet out there. Literally, click, 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 and you've got a wallet, and you're able to take Bitcoin. Oh, I want a Lightning. Boom. Now you got a Lightning there. Oh, wow, they've got all right.
Yeah.
So that's who we've been recommending. We're not affiliated with
I
them
did
or
want
anything.
to.
We look for the easiest one because our customers are usually not sophisticated customers, so you want them to be able to use something easy. And,
Yeah. So there are some incredible strides on user experience being made, but it's subtle. It's not like this amazing easy platform, but it's gotten a lot better. A lot better.
So I have a challenge for you from about Lightning. So one of the challenges I had was when I went to El Salvador. Early on, they had these QR codes, and they were like, "Oh, pay for it in Bitcoin." Well, that's not a Bitcoin address; that's a Lightning address. And if you don't have a Lightning wallet, it doesn't even know what the heck you're scanning. And then there were Strike wallets, right? And then if you didn't have Strike, and so I was like, okay, this is not a good user experience. This isn't Bitcoin. You're telling people to use their Bitcoin wallet that are coming down here, have never used Lightning before, have no idea what this isn't. And it just I was with Jimmy Song, and he was like, "This isn't scanning." I was like, "It's a Lightning wallet." And he was like, and we looked at it, and he's like, yeah, it shows, if you look at the URL, but who's going to open it up and look at that? You can figure out what it is. But meanwhile, the waitress is saying, it's Bitcoin. Pay for it in Bitcoin. And I'm like, no. How do you solve that? How do you?
That's a great point because like a lot of the moves that I saw in El Salvador were it was like going towards like proprietary solutions instead of relying on like the open network protocol. You know, where we've got this like interoperable like innovation. I think that's where Bitcoin wins. The closest that I saw to that was Galoy with the Bitcoin Beach URLs. This is like a normal QR code that you scan. It's not
I know. But you have to have the Bitcoin Beach wallet, and if you're not from El Salvador, you couldn't get from the US. I couldn't get one, and Strike wouldn't approve me the whole time I was down there, so I could never use either one of those wallets while I was down there. This is early on. This is
the one I scanned did not require a Bitcoin Beach wallet, but it was just a payment terminal website, and so you were able to generate.
Okay, so you could go there and select it. I'm sure it's gotten better. I was literally there like a few days after they made the announcement of legalizing Bitcoin. So this is early on. I've been there a few times since, but I'm used to it. Now I have a Lightning wallet. I have all the wallets set up. But my initial experience and for new people and for Bitcoiners coming there, they're not going to have Lightning set up. They will very shortly after getting there and realizing these are all Lightning wallets, and I'm sure people have gotten used to explaining to them, yes, you use Lightning, here's how you do it, yada, yada, yada. But then you have even with Blue Wallet, you have the challenge of converting your Bitcoin to Lightning, and meanwhile the bills do, right? So it's...
Exactly. Actually, that's kind of the Blue Wallet experience from moving from on-chain to Lightning, and then realizing that there's no like undo button on that was like
you got to spend it all.
That was one of the key motivations for us to add swaps to Magma. So this is like a super new feature that we just added, which allows like anyone on the Lightning Network to be able to exchange on-chain Bitcoin for your Lightning payment. So you can
nice, and then so that opens a channel up to them at the same time, or feeds a channel, it fills a channel that you may have open.
So
yeah. Because that's the problem when you initially get set up is you can spend, but you can't receive any Bitcoin. So in this case, if you did like a swap, and I saw there, it doesn't, is that Lightning? One of them has, I think, swaps built in. Umbrel has swaps somewhere. I saw them somewhere.
Yeah,
I agree.
There's been several integration of like one Bolts exchange and then two is Lightning Labs Loop solution. And those are pretty awesome. But those are going to be like, you've got two customers, but basically the idea with Magma swaps is that like really anyone on the Lightning Network that runs a Lightning node can do this service for you. And so let's just open up the market and then figure out, okay, what is actually the pricing difference between a Lightning Sats and on-chain Sats? And I think there will be a difference, because on Lightning you got liquidity issues, and also like some security considerations, but like way higher liquidity. It's very easy to spend while at the same time you've got liquidity issues.
So here's a question. So Jeremy, you're going to love this one. What if so you know how you peg Bitcoins when you're on ramping, and so if you're going to do a swap and you want to get some, what if these are tainted coins? What if these are on an OFAC list? What happens? The network's going to allow it to happen, and I'm on the other side of that, and I just now received Lightning Bitcoin, but it's not really pegged to Bitcoin directly, so that would be a hard one to, actually, you're not. It's just, it unpegs to the same Bitcoin. That's the problem. You're going to get that Bitcoin, that tainted Bitcoin back at some point.
Yeah. I mean, so the fungibility questions definitely come up, but like in the fiat world, is it
though? I mean, Lightning is fungible internally in a way, but at some point it has to settle out into another system. So but you can do it anywhere, so it is fungible, right?
It should be. I mean, for US dollars, or like most fiat currencies, it's by law that this is fungible. Like even if there's like blood on your dollar bill, from like some violent acts that happened.
Yeah, but we're not talking about law. We're talking about in practice, right? So in practice, those Bitcoins are tainted. Nobody's ever going to want to touch those Bitcoins. So if if that channel is tied to them, you're not going to want to be a part of that channel. So you'd want to avoid that. And you can actually do that but even if you transacted with it, you're not transacting with that Bitcoin node directly. So I don't know. That's kind of
super interesting, but I would analogize it to like a change machine where you're crossing layers of Bitcoin. Like this is the actual function of what it does is convert from one layer to a different layer. And there's different use cases like on those different layers. Now, like when you go to a change machine, like you don't necessarily know like what whose quarters were those. Whereas
Right.
It's honestly the ecosystem needs this function to be
But
there.
that's after the fact. That operator of that vending machine has that bill that you put in there at that point in time. So he's got to deal with that, whatever the blood that's on it, so to speak.
Yeah,
And,
it's true. Currently, the way the
anyway,
swaps,
it's just an interesting thing that they'll have to fight out in courts. But I think Lightning is so far off the charts that A, they wouldn't understand it, and B, they wouldn't be able to prove something like that. And see, I do think that it is fungible. I do think that it's so far removed that you can't make the argument that it touches that. That's just not fair. That's like saying because Santander, or okay, I won't say a bank is laundering money, and I have an account there that all of a sudden I'm laundering money because it's in the pool. No, that can't be.
yeah, are you really
Okay,
going to go
take
after the
that part
customers
off.
of this? This is it's a bit ridiculous.
Right.
So
Well, right.
So Magma really is developing like a reputation for each one of the channels that is being, hosted out there, correct?
yeah, so
So if someone's abusing
yes,
that,
we were talking about
you guys can report
Magma
those.
swaps, but now switching to channels, the reputation piece of this is a lot more important because one thing that you'll notice when you get into Lightning is that not all channels are equal, even if they're the same size. That the value of the liquidity is different. So if I'm like opening a store and I get one channel, that is open to me, I'm going to have to use that one. And so that means my customer base is the person that opened the channel to me and all of the channels that they have opened to them. So like that's just looking at two hops. So basically it kind of controls what my customer base is like how connected they are. And also there's going to be liquidity issues in each of those channels as well. So like,
But that's why like bit refill is like you have to have a little bit of that because everything gets routed through there at some point. It's so big now that you have to have a channel open with them because they're connected to everybody and they don't go down, they're up all the time. So it's a pretty reliable channel. But now you're talking about centralizing all the routing, right? And I'm sure the community is thrilled about it, but at the end of the day it works.
yeah. So yeah.
But you got to get like the big players. You got to get pieces of all the big ones and have big enough channels for your products and things like that. And that's managing your channels, and that's too complex for most people. Like maybe that's something you can build as another layer to manage all of that, so that you don't have to go in there and figure it out yourself. Like I need 100% liquidity all the time for a $1,000 payment. You have to have multiple open channels for at least that amount. And then I know the rebalancing, all that stuff. Nobody. That's so complicated. It's most people aren't going to do that.
Yeah, it's true. So one of the things that is like core to the Amboss business is actually being able to deliver those insights and help people like actually understand what to do on their node, because like it's happened. It happens to me quite often where I'll get offered like, hey, can you just take a look at our node and make sure that we're doing things right? Like I'll pay you. Like I'll pay you. Like just like however much hundreds of
Because
dollars.
it's complex, right? Because you don't know. Like I have Riverside, which is one of the big exchanges, and it couldn't route to me. And I'm like, why? And it was because one of my channels wasn't open that they were trying to use, and I didn't have enough liquidity elsewhere for what I wanted to send there. And it's like, so what do I do? Wait for this guy to come back up, open a new channel, wait for that to confirm. Like that's those kinds of things are. Or if I was handling my network properly, I would have rebalanced them, and I would have had one big open channel, not all these little tiny ones sitting around. But who has time to manage their wallet all the time, right? You don't.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Like sometimes I buy
Growing
domains.
pains, I know. No, I'm complaining, but I'm really not. I love Lightning, absolutely. I sound like I'm beating on it, but that's only because I like it and I've really dug into it, and I do see potential for it. So you gotta beat it up a little bit on where it may be.
Totally. Yeah. It's like for the engineers and the builders, like you can see the potential of this, but you also identify like all the problems that need fixing, and there's a ton of them, but you can see that like if this thing works.
Well, complexity is always something to identify because it's great to get tinkers, it's great to get people that are the first movers, but to really get adoption, you have to have normal people. And that's why I thought when I was in El Salvador, it was so interesting that everyone was using Lightning like it was nothing. Like they had the people that lived there, the people that were there were already using it. Like to them, that was Bitcoin, and that blew my mind. I was like, wow, okay, this is something. It was so easy for them, with the Bitcoin Beach wallet, with the Strike wallet. They did make it easy enough that the average guy could go and transact. That's something. That's powerful right there, and they proved it. More importantly, they weren't talking about it. They actually proved it out. So that really sold it for me on Lightning. I had looked at it before, but believe me, I was the whole weekend going through and I was going to do this, and it's pretty cool. Nice.
So if a consumer purchases something and for whatever reason it just doesn't resolve, that's what ultimately you guys are tracking in order to eliminate those bad actors out of the marketplace, or at least rank them low enough to where they're not there.
Unreliable channels, I would think, is a bigger problem.
The which channels?
Unreliable channels, people where the channel's not, the uptime's not up, or they close your channel for no reason.
Yeah. Since Magma isn't able to enforce anything on the node, the thing that we can do is track reputation. So one of the big factors in there is, are they quick to respond? So are they going to open a channel quickly, and are they able to maintain the promises that they've made, which is one of the main promises might be the duration of the channel. And then also what fees are they going to charge for actually routing the transaction? Because that will be a cost borne by a store's customers to actually deliver that payment. So monitoring those things contribute to the reputation. And then we've also included some liquidity factors. So it used to be the Boz score, but basically your Lightning terminal ranking is based on probing on whether you can get certain payments through a node. So that's important information for kind of like how to give reputation to nodes. Can they actually get payments through? So that's an important consideration.
That's true. Not all nodes are created equal. Okay, so what's next for you guys? What are you building now? What are you working on now? What are you passionate about now?
We've got the Magma Swaps open beta, so we're trying to get as much feedback as possible to really improve the user experience. I mean, just even on like the design front and the words we're using to describe this, because someone is going to be paying Lightning and they're going to be receiving on-chain Bitcoin. Now, like those are already not user-friendly terms. But now, okay, there's a buyer and a seller. Okay, which one's which? Because it's
depends on which side of the transaction, right? Wow, yeah, you're right. That is very. That's funny because on our machines we get people that go up to the machine and click on sell Bitcoin, but they're looking to buy Bitcoin, but they click on sell and they're like, yeah, those are interesting problems.
Yeah, selling dollars, buying Bitcoin. It gets very confusing very quickly. So. Yeah, we've reached out to the Bitcoin design group for some feedback, and we're also just looking for any user feedback because we deeply listen to our users, even when they've got bad things to say. We think we've done a horrible job. Like, yeah, let's try and make it better.
Look at fixedfloat.com.
Okay.
They have a really, really simple interface to get between them. And it's clear you're on the left side or right side. I'm going from this to this, and forget about the terminology. It's graphical because you're not going to win. If you can explain it all day, they're not going to read it. When you have something visual, it's left to right. I get it. Okay, I'm getting that. No, they might get it.
Yeah, these user experience issues are a huge challenge because there's some users that will just continue to click buttons until the buttons disappear, and not read them. It doesn't matter what the text says, but.
So how many
I've been a
users
software
do you
developer
have?
my entire life, believe me. There's nothing more frustrating than watching somebody use your application like click. I say stop clicking so many times. Like stop doing that.
So how many users do you guys have online now, or how many nodes is probably more appropriate to ask? How many nodes do you guys have online?
So we've gotten over 5,600 nodes to claim their node on Amboss, which means that they're able to actually modify the blurb on their node page and be able to modify some of those details, which means that if there's almost 1,700 nodes on the network, we've crossed the threshold of a little over a third of the Lightning Network uses our tools already, at least knows about us.
Very nice.
So that it was a huge milestone for us.
How do you register? So I have a couple of nodes on Lightning, but I haven't registered them yet. How do I go about that?
The easiest way is through ThunderHub. There's a one-click button to log into Amboss. So yeah, it's a single click.
Perfect.
The alternative is you can sign a message using your node. And so we're able to, and that's what's happening in the background of that one-click login, is that we're giving you a message and you sign it using your node, and that proves to us that you own the pub key associated with the node.
That's another interesting thing when you mentioned about messaging. So I noticed in Umbrel there were a bunch of messaging apps that use Lightning to communicate, and I'm thinking, oh, that's interesting. They're paying every single time they send a transaction. No, not really. They're just utilizing the network for free, pretty much. And it's an interesting use of the network. I'll give them that. I haven't played with it yet.
At the bottom of the homepage of amboss.space, you'll see a key send billboard. So if you want to try sending messages, we'll just post it. Whatever message you send to us, we'll just post it right on the homepage of the website. You can see it on a live website, and a lot of users have really enjoyed that. And we'll sort by the fee rate. So whether it's like, who was fastest for Formula One, or what the standings are, or advertising your business, or saying, hey, connect to my node, all of those things.
I did see that at the bottom of your guys' website. I thought that was actually particularly cool.
You mentioned polio feed earlier. We were just talking about doing something very similar with water buckets. There used to be one where they had goats and chickens and buckets where you send a transit Bitcoin and water would drop in the bucket. And it was on a video display. Similar thing, real world thing where, okay, I just sent something from here through a video screen on the stage to wherever it is, and something happened, and that was a payment that happened. It blows people's mind. And I think that kind of demonstration of Bitcoin is powerful.
Yeah. Shout out Pollo Feed. Awesome stuff.
There you go.
Yeah.
So working towards our closing here, I always like to find out this from pretty much everybody that I interview or I talk to. But what's one or two books that you'd recommend to our audience, and why?
For me, starting a business and wrestling through like all the imposter syndrome that sometimes you get. My brother gave me this book called The Hard Thing About Hard Things, and it was a humbling like recap of like some early tech days where a company is just going through like extremely difficult times. And so him thinking about, okay, how do I do this well? I mean, if I have to do layoffs in the future, like I'm sure like that's going to feel like a complete failure for you as a founder. And like what your staff needs is for someone to be there and to thank them for the service that they've done. So that was like a huge boost to like, okay, like this is going to be a very humbling learning experience for me, like as a co-founder. And how do I do this well? So that was huge for me. The other one was just for getting started doing a startup is Venture Deals, and I'll just continue recommending that book just to get you started. Understand who you're talking to if you start seeking out venture capital. So those are the big ones for me right now.
I've read both of those. I'd have to agree. Those are both phenomenal books.
Awesome.
All right. Well, Jesse, where can the listeners find you online?
They can follow me on Twitter at Jestifer_BTC, or follow Amboss, and it's just me behind the Twitter, so it's at Amboss Tech.
Okay. Well, hey, we really appreciate your time today, and we look forward to seeing some really awesome things come out of Amboss. And thanks for sharing about Magma today.
Yeah, it was fantastic to talk to you guys. Thanks so much for the time.
Yeah, it's nice talking to you. Thanks a lot. And good luck with everything.
Okay, well, this has been such a great episode, Eric. You want to take us through just a quick wrap-up of our guest and just the overall topic of the Lightning Network?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about some of the advantages of Lightning, some of the problems and difficulties people have in setting up a new Lightning node. I ran into a similar thing. When I first set up, I had a bunch of umbrals, and I had no way to receive payments. I was like, this is crazy. Like, you can't receive payment? Nobody can send me money? So I used Bitrefill to create that initial channel, and then eventually all my nodes had channels, and everything was working fine. But yeah, getting started is tough in Lightning unless you've done it a few times, and then you just take it for granted. Like, oh yeah, you got to do this. You got to open up a channel to your other node, and that way you can provide liquidity. But for large businesses, like we heard him talking about, they have to receive payment, so they can't have a channel like, oh, so sorry, I can't route it to you. No, you have to receive payment, and that's one of the problems with using Lightning is that you have to understand how much available, basically, credit you have.
Awesome. Definitely interesting.
Yeah.
So for our listeners, I hope you guys also found it very interesting. And if you're hearing this message, you've obviously listened all the way to the end of our episode. And for that, we would like to thank you. If you've liked this episode, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever you're listening to us at. Take some time, share the episode with your friends. And if you have any questions about anything that we've discussed on today's episode, we'd love to hear from you, and we will answer all the messages. So don't hesitate to reach out. You can also join us on places like Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn in order to continue the conversation. So we'll leave you guys with that. Until next time, thanks for joining us.